today's video, I'm going to be teaching or showing you all how I teach heel. I've taught all my dogs this way. This is how I was taught. I'm not necessarily saying this is the only way, but this is just how I do it. I've never had a problem teaching any of my dogs this way, and I feel like this is just the best way that works for me. So with that being said, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna want when training not just heel, but really any new command and or task, as always, you're going to want treats or a reward. Some people use toys because some dogs don't like treats. Sometimes they just don't want to give their dogs treats. We just use some of Oz's dog food. We take it out of his daily rations, out of his meal, because he technically gets 2 scoops of these twice a day. So this is just 1 scoop out of one of his 2 meals. So he's not getting overfed or anything like that. But pretty much what you're gonna do is you're gonna have the dog treat or reward, whatever you're using, and you're gonna have it in your hand. And you're gonna have it so that the dog can smell it, lick it, nibble on it, whatever, but they can't actually get the treat itself. So what that's gonna look like for me in this case is I'm just gonna have it between my 2 fingers, and as you can see, he can nibble it, bite it, all that, but until I actually give it to him, he can't get it out of my hand. All right, so that's the first thing that you wanna make sure you have. And then the next step is going to be picking a side. So for me, I use my left side just because I'm left-hand dominant. This is the side that I'm more comfortable on. It's just what I prefer to use. I personally don't feel that there is a right or wrong side as to which side your dog should heel on. I know that in some cases, like show rings and things like that, there is a preferred standard and a preferred side. But again, this is just me and what I do and how I train. Like I said, I pick my left side. So for that, after you pick a side, what you're gonna do is you're gonna wanna get your dog's attention. Come here. Oz, come around. Come around. Good boy. Sit. All right. So then the next step is you're gonna take your treat or your reward, have it in your hand so your dog can't get it, have it down by your side. Make sure they can smell it and that they know that you have it, but just have it down by your side like this. Say heel and start walking. Oz, heel. And make sure you have that constantly by your side and that your dog is constantly still following it as you're walking. Again, this is just me personally, but I like to have Aslan sit after I'm done walking when we're heeling, just because I feel like this is more polite. Again, just my preference. You don't have to do this, but it's just something I do. So again, treat like this, tip of your dog's nose, down by your side, Aslan heel. And you pretty much just want to lure your dog with the treat and take it as slow as you need to. As you see, Oz lost a little bit of focus there for a second or 2. But just take it as slow as you and your dog need to take it, and then you just, eventually they should start heel. Realizing that heel means by my side, and then when we stop, we sit. So as they get that first step down, what you're gonna wanna do next is start to phase the target or the lure out. And what I mean by that, and I'll show you here in a second, is that as they get that first step that I just showed you down, you're gonna want to take the treat and not necessarily move it farther away from your body, but make it a little less accessible to your dog, so that you're not actually having it right to their nose just like this. you're gonna wanna have it more like out here, or maybe just on the front of your leg like this, so they can't even see it, but they know that you still have it. So that way they start to learn that just because the treat's not in front of your face doesn't mean you don't have to do it. So what that looks like is this. Oz, come around. Come around. No. Come here. You ready? Heel. Heel. Again, that just looks like this. I have his treat. He knows that I have the treat. I tell him to heel, and then I make sure that the treat is not directly in his face anymore. Heel. This side. Heel. Heel. Good boy. But I do that just so that if he does need redirection, he does still know that I have that treat, so he knows that he is still working towards something. But that's the second step. That would be in this process. Again, you're gonna want to lure first, start phasing it out second, and then eventually you're going to be able to actually take it so that you're not holding that treat at all. I mean, if you want, you'll still have it in your pocket or something, but you won't have to physically have it in front of your dog. You're going to be able to do something more like this. And he's not perfect at this yet. He's actually just now starting to get into this phase. So this is what it should look like. Oz, heel, heel, this side, heel. Good boy. So again, not perfect. It's not going to be at the beginning, which is always okay. But you still, like I said, you just want to make sure you have that treat on standby. So if your dog wants to end up doing like Oz just did and get a little distracted, or be like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? There's no food here. You can still show them that you do have their treat and that they are still working towards something. And then if they do something really, really great and it's like, wow, good job, I like to give them a high value reward, which is just sometimes like 3 or 4 extra pieces of his treat instead of just 1. So if he does something really good and he did it almost perfectly, I'll be like, wow, good job, and give him lots of love and just give him a couple extra treats so that he knows that he did something great. So that's pretty much the process that I use when I teach heel. And you can either use this with or without a leash. Just because I've been working with Aslan a little bit longer on this, he doesn't really need his leash. But it is something that you can always train when you're first training it. So I will insert a clip of how you can train heel using a leash. Again, I don't particularly use it on my bigger dogs just because they're usually waist height and I can just hold the treat and it's a lot easier that way. But if you have a smaller dog or you feel like using a leash would be a lot easier for you, that clip will be at the end of this video. Okay, so this is how heeling would look like if you have the leash on. I have it connected to Oz right now. The training process is going to be exactly the same as far as teaching it with or without the leash on. I just know some people will have preference to having it just so they can regain control of their dog a little bit easier if need be. But like I said, the training process is exactly the same. The steps don't change. The only difference is that the dog is leashed and you have more control over them that way. So this is what that's gonna look like again. Heel. So yeah, no difference except for the leash. So again, it's just a preference to whatever you feel is more comfortable for you and your dog. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and we will see you next time.